What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Good Wolf Project. I'm your host, Jerry Scarlato, and today's conversation is with Dr. Christine Boev. Christine is an ICU nurse and a medical school teacher, and is also very passionate about helping people in their health and fitness. It is very unusual to find someone in the medical industry who can appreciate the purposefulness that it takes to be able to develop yourself into a person, the behavior change that it takes to actually make that happen. And Christine has allowed herself to step away from a lot of the medical model, even though she's still in the medical world, and be able to actually help people in a holistic kind of way that lets them make sustainable changes in their life instead of layering on medication after medication. Be patient with the audio during this one. Her audio kind of cuts in and out, but you'll definitely appreciate the conversation because she is a wealth of knowledge both on human behavior and on what it takes to create sustainable health and fitness and live a long, healthy life. So enjoy this conversation with Dr. Christine Boev. Miss Christine, how are you doing today? It's great to see you. You got your dog with you there at work. And I am curious, do they have bring your dog to work day regularly? Is that something you can just choose to do?
Yeah, no, and it's actually not in the policy of the university. So please, listeners, do not share the fact that I have illegally brought
That's
my
too
dog
funny.
to work today.
That's too funny.
But it's one of those like don't ask permission, just ask forgiveness. And it's kind of an understood thing here. I teach a bunch of nursing students and they love it. So I'm
Mhm.
willing to like take the risk and go out on a limb to
Yeah.
help them.
I like the ask or do first and apologize later mentality. That's
Oh, it's a mantra of my life for sure.
I'm, I'm
Oh,
telling
sorry. I didn't know that that was a problem.
it is one of the most useful things that I think most people can take into their life. You just go ahead and do it, and then as long as you're not going to, cross any moral boundaries, I think everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I'm a lot less about asking forgiveness as well. I'm really tired of apologizing for things when I know I'm like being my authentic self and I'm living in integrity. So I very rarely apologize anymore as well, unless I've really screwed up, which does happen, but not as often.
Mm, no doubt. Yeah, I do think that like we're kind of in a place in the world where it feels like we need to apologize for all the things that we are and all the things that we stand for. And there may be a chance that that's kind of shifting. And partly, it's funny you commented on. I didn't wear the hat today, but you commented on the bull
Yeah.
hat, which Andy is one of the people that's like leading the charge in trying to shift our culture today. But yeah, how do you start to? I know that this isn't the route we're going to go, but I'm glad you kind of brought it up.
Yeah, no, let's go.
How do you push back on that? Like, how do you start to comfortably push back on that? Because so many people, like, we want to be perceived as nice, good people, right? I think most
Hmm.
people want to be perceived as a good person, which is fine. But at the same time, we've gotten to the point where it's like, I'm going to let you do you. And I've let you do you so long that now you're trying to make me do you also,
Yeah,
hypothetically.
absolutely. I
Um,
think in my position, I really lead by example, and it's much less about talking and much more about doing. It's the actionable items that you do and how you live your life. And I love Andy because I love, that personal excellence and that if you really want to make this world a better place, then start with what you can control, and I can control what I put in my body, how I move my body, how I show up every day. And that's why I started doing personal development coaching because, okay, now I can help all these other people. And it's really almost a movement. And a lot of people don't even know they're part of the movement. They just know that they want to be better. And I think it's really important. But I will be honest with you, I do bite my tongue a lot
mm,
because it's not worth it to get into these heated conversations with people who don't want to open their mind. They don't really want to hear what we have to say.
mm.
And it's like talking to a wall. So then I get, kind of irritated and aggravated. And I really try to keep my emotions in check so that I'm really using them purposefully, you know, to be a good leader, to be a good example, to be a good mom, to be a good wife, all the things so that you do lead by example. And I've got kids I've got one in college, one who's going to go to college, and talk about like the world of indoctrination.
Hmm.
I feel like our kids are being raised in a way that they're not going to be influenced by other people's agenda because they were raised with values that like we continue to instill in them through our actions and through how we role model. So I think that's what people like you and I have an opportunity to do, is just continue to role model and show up regardless.
There's so much truth in a lot and everything that you had to say there. Um, I think that so many people don't understand that you are being watched all the
Mhm.
time. And I'm not a parent, so I can't speak directly to raising children, but I do know human behavior pretty well. I owned a fitness studio for 10, almost, over 10 years. And I've been in the health and fitness industry for 15 years. And you've helped a lot of people as well. And you're also in nursing and you have a PhD. We're going to get to all of that in a second. But I think this is a very important point. Your children are watching you and
Mhm.
people around you are watching you. And if you feel like your children are having a hard time adapting to the world, it's because they're watching you have a hard time adapting to the world. If you feel like your children are having a hard time overcoming not wanting to eat sugar or not wanting to have unnecessary frankenfoods, if you will, it's because you're doing the same thing. If you feel like your kids are having a hard time getting up and moving and having a hard time wanting to go outside and having a hard time wanting to be active, it's because you're doing the same thing. Kids during that developmental period are watching their parents, they're watching the environment around them, and they're figuring out how to live the life, how to live their life, how to develop into a being by watching that. And I think that people just make that disconnection for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I also think the notion of owning your own actions and being accountable for your behavior is something that's really important, because I see this as a parent and I see this as an educator, that you've made this decision. You are only accountable to yourself, and then there are consequences. So when I deal with college students ages 18 up to, I don't know, we have 50-year-olds, right? What drives me insane is the lack of accountability for their actions. And then the second part of this is they don't know how to get feedback. So you're trying to give them feedback. Nobody's ever done this before. Nobody's ever told them, you know what, you're not making the cut. Like, you need to do better or this isn't going to work out. Nobody's ever shared that with them because they've never failed. So we've got this participation trophy generation of people who think they're amazing, but they're not. And then when they get to the point and they want to, become a registered professional nurse, and I have to say, I'm really sorry, but you are not eligible. You don't have the credentials. You can't. They fall apart. They absolutely melt. And so the other thing I think as adults and as parents is to role model accountability, and that, you know what, hey, I screwed up on that. I need to do better next time. Let me show you how I'm going to do better next time. Because if we don't correct that mentality,
Mhm.
we're in trouble.
Yeah, the
We're in
world
big
is in
trouble.
trouble. The world is in trouble
Absolutely.
because they're the ones that have to run the world next. They're the ones that have to come up and run the world next. Whenever that is, and that's soon. That's not far away. And if
Mhm.
they're not prepared to be accountable to their actions and be able to take, like you said, take feedback, the simple act of taking feedback, because all the world ever wants to really do is slap you in the face and slap you around. Like that's what the world is, I believe, kind of here to do, is to basically build adversity into your life so that you become a stronger person, so that you can learn lessons, so that you can develop into whatever the person is that you're going to become. But you have to be able to learn from it. And if you think that you are as good as you're going to get and you have the participation trophy mindset, I love that you said that, because that is so true. But if you think that you're as good as you're going to get and you think that you're the greatest, you're just never going to have an open mind to be able to develop into anything more. And you're always going to be wondering, why can't I just why can't I get better, or why can't I push forward, or how do
Yeah.
you start to nudge those kids in a direction though? How do you start to have that open up that conversation and open up their minds to listen to feedback?
It's really hard because it's that notion of building resiliency, and they have
Mm,
such a lack of resiliency. And I think that there is this relationship between this mental health crisis that's going
mhm,
on and the lack of resiliency. It's not that you're having a mental health crisis, it's that life is friggin' hard sometimes. And it's actually okay to feel like you have a lot of anxiety. It's how you deal with that anxiety. Like, how do you constructively deal with these feelings of, oh my gosh, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Okay, well, why don't you go out for a run? Like, why don't you do something constructive versus like melting into a puddle and becoming useless? And
mhm,
so there's a huge opportunity to build resiliency amongst this generation of students and kids and whatever, so that they can deal with these emotions that are actually very common. It's normal to feel anxious, overwhelmed, depressed, sad. You're not going to be great every day. And like, how do you accept that? Because I'll tell you, like, our adversaries across the globe, they're not raising
mhm,
their kids to be, oh, you're so great all the
mhm,
time. It's like, no, get your ass in line. You're terrible. Like, you need to do better. And that's where I think we're also have a huge opportunity to shift course in this country as well. So lots of things that like trouble me and like keep me up at night and
mhm,
want me to just help people. And being in this space of in a university is an opportunity to like role model, to teach
mhm.
people resilience, to not allow themselves to have that victim mentality, because that's another thing. Like, oh, woe is me. No, no, woe is me. But get your ass out there and fix it. And that's, part of what I do.
Yes, it does take one person at a time. And the thing is that you never know what person is going to then go change so many other people's lives, right? That's like the patient part of what we do as coaches is you want to feel like you want to reach a ton of people, but you also have to realize that by reaching just one person, that one person could potentially then go reach 1,000 people or 10,000 people or become the president of the United States and completely change the world. So there's definitely a patience in being able to do that, right? But at the same time, I don't think we have a whole lot of patience left because I'm 100% with you in that there's so many dominoes that continue to fall. There's so many dominoes that just continue to go down. And the thing is, like, the kids, I can kind of understand, it makes me sad that a lot of teenagers and so on have that mentality, but they're getting it from their parents because, again, their parents are doing the same thing. Their parents are not taking accountability for their lives. Their parents are not taking responsibility for anything going on with the health. Like, health is a perfect example of this. When you look at the average 30 something or 40 something or 50 something for that matter, they don't take any responsibility for their health. They take no responsibility for their health. They let the doctor take responsibility for their health. They let medications take responsibility for their health. They let pharmaceutical companies take responsibility for their health. Instead of l- taking their health literally in their hands, they are becoming dependent on a system. They're becoming dependent on a thing, which is especially challenging for you, I would assume, because you're you see one part of the system and you're like, I can assume this is me making assumptions right now, and we can dive into it. But on one side, you see the medical side, which kind of, I believe, wants people to be dependent on
Mhm.
certain things. And then on the other side, you're like, hey, you can take your life into control. Like, you can take your life in your own hands and actually move in a direction that you don't have to be dependent on all these things around you. So I'm curious, do you have that feeling, or is that something that I'm do you have that feeling that you feel pulled in a couple of different directions based on where you are?
Absolutely. So I work in the intensive care unit. So
Mm,
a lot of what we see is preventable. And that's what gets really frustrating, right? Obesity is preventable. Smoking is preventable. Drinking is preventable. What you put in your body, what you eat, your nutrition, your movement, all of that is preventable. The problem is it's hard. And
mm,
people don't want to live in any sort of discomfort. And when they do, they're like, oh, I'll just take this diabetes medication and this blood pressure medication. And then all of a sudden they get their foot chopped off and they're infected and they're dead. And it really is like people don't realize like you have the power inside of you to take control of your health and fitness. It's simple. It's very simple. It's not easy.
not
And I tell
easy.
clients that if it was easy, then we wouldn't have an obesity epidemic in this country. And I'll tell you the other thing that really frustrates me is this let's embrace this big is beautiful
Mm,
concept. That is completely irresponsible. You
mm,
need to remember like obesity is related to doubling your incidence of basically every type of cancer. Like, we can't just go around and say, it's okay that you're fat. That's
mm,
great. It's not okay. You're going to die. And if we would be more honest with people instead of blowing smoke up their butt and be like, oh, it's okay, honey. You're perfect just the way you are. Yeah, but you're not going to live a great life. You're not going to be a good example to the people around you to say, like, it's okay to eat Oreos on the couch and watch Netflix all day and
mm,
not move your body. I think it's irresponsible of me as a healthcare provider to say that that's even remotely acceptable because it's not.
mm. Yeah, the way that I heard it put, that I forget who said, I think it was Lane Norton
Mm,
who put it this way, is being obese is like taking your temperature and raising it up just a notch, just enough so that you basically cook yourself faster. I don't think
mm,
he put it exactly that way, but essentially like you said, it raises your risk for literally all chronic diseases.
yeah,
Just the simple fact of having extra adipose tissue on your body raises diabetes, hypertension, your blood sugar is probably not probably high, it's definitely high. Like you
mhm,
said, raises the risk of cancers, all of those things from having extra adipose tissue on your body. Now, two things can be true at the same time. One thing that is true is that all human beings are worthy and all human beings are worthy of respect. Of course, if you don't cross moral lines and so on. And at the same time, it's not okay to be unhealthy and unfit. It's not okay. Accepting yourself as a human being and accepting yourself as you are two very different things,
mhm,
right?
absolutely.
They're two very different things. So
Right.
how do you start to nudge the person and go, hey, like you got to pay attention to this thing over here. You're right. You are a human being. You're worthy as a human being, but you got to change. You got to change this over here, or something's going to blow. Something's going to happen.
I think they're connected though. That
Mm,
self-worth is definitely connected to your motivation to want to change.
mm,
And a lot of times with my clients, we're doing like deep dives into that notion of worthiness and that you are worth the extra energy it's going to take to get your butt outside and just go for a walk, or the investment that it's going to take to get a whole foods diet that is not full of all this processed stuff, or invest in a coach so that somebody can help you. It's really connected, and a lot of it is like deep seated trauma that they're carrying with them that just informs all of the decisions that they make. Like, well, I'm just a big piece of crap anyway, what do I care? I'm just gonna you know not eat well and not go to the gym. And they need to realize, like, yes, you are 1000% worthy. You deserve to take care
mm,
of yourself. And I love to get people that are like just on the brink of experiencing that and taking them through that transformation. Like, my favorite clients are the ones that come to me broken and obese and but open, right? Like,
mm,
tell me what to do. I'll do anything.
mm,
And they actually listen. Then you get the other ones that like, oh, come help me. And you give them the whole
mm,
roadmap and they don't do any of it.
mm.
Right. And then you've got those
Breaks
two.
your heart. Mm,
I can't make you do it, right? I can't make you eat healthy,
mm.
but I can certainly give you the tools that you need to, get to the right place. So yeah, they're totally connected.
Well, as far as that goes, the way that I think about it, and this is what we used to coach our coaches at Thriveology. That was the name of the fitness studio that I owned for 10 years. Is the coach can't try harder than the client.
Mm-hmm.
So I can give you everything. I can tell you everything to do. I can literally hand you the playbook and say, here, this is all you need to do. Now go do it. like you said, it's very simple.
Mhm.
5 basic steps, maybe 6. That's it. Go do it. Go ahead. But the fact that people don't like the hardness of it, don't like the having to change, having to go through the struggle, having to go overcome obstacles, having to overcome the plateaus, having to overcome the ups and downs, and all of that. That's the part that really holds people back. And the thing is, like, for so many people, it is exactly what you're talking about. They get to a point where they are desperate. They have to do it. And that's typically beyond the point of real quality, like real quality, not real quality health, but like most people who are unhealthy, it's like they're just unhealthy enough, right?
Right.
They're unhealthy enough where it's like, okay, I can deal with this. I can take a couple medications and everything's okay. And then it's the next level up after that. Type 2 diabetes, potentially, like you said, having to have a foot or something amputated, like something very serious, a cancer diagnosis, like something super intense where a doctor was like, hey, if you don't get this thing under control, I can't give you years. I don't know what this looks like. And sadly, that's what gets people, I hate to say it, but like it's those kind of things that really get people going. It's those kinds of things that really get people moving whenever it's like, oh, I need to do this now instead
Mhm.
of taking action before the need has to happen.
Yeah, and it's about trying to achieve a better quality of life, right? And a lot of my clients, they have kids, grandkids, and
Mm,
they don't have the energy to be in a good space with them because they're exhausted all the time. The other motivation, especially for my male clients, is they can't have sex anymore
mm,
because they're so broken from a cardiovascular and metabolic standpoint that they can't even get an erection.
mm,
So I have people that come to me and they're like, all right, this is not going to work. Okay, fine. If that's the straw that's going to break your back, then let's friggin' go. And I'll take whatever your tipping point is where you're like, I've had enough. Like there's nobody who's so broken that we can't work with them. Right. Nobody's that lost of a cause that it's like, oh, forget it. Like, I can't help you.
mhm,
Anybody can take, it's just taking that first step, that first like time that you go out for a walk when you don't feel like it, that first time of like pushing yourself to do something that you don't want to do, or foregoing like the ice cream sundae for the first time. It's like, oh, I actually do have some self-control, I do have some
mm.
power. But having somebody kind of behind you to help you along is huge. I mean, I have a coach, I'm assuming you have a coach. Like, we all need people to help hold us accountable and help us to elevate. And I love that concept of proximity, of like being in proximity to people who elevate you and make you better. That's something that I've been really intentional about, like keeping my circle of people, like people that really inspire me.
Mm.
And that takes effort. It takes a lot of effort to, get outside of your comfort zone and be like, hey, I want to get to know you. I want to spend time with you because like you're pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. It's ironic that you bring that up because I was talking about that on my Instagram story today. Just
Mhm.
surrounding yourself, not only the people around you, but the environment around you as well plays a huge part in your results and in the person that you become because you feed off of those people. I mean, you certainly feed off the people. But what people don't also understand is that habits are a context dependent thing. So when you're thinking about changing your life, one of the things that you have to start to change is also the environment around you. It's context dependent. A
Yeah.
perfect example of that is sitting down and watching, binge watching Netflix after work. What do most people do when they do that? They sit down. Eventually, they get up and they walk to the pantry and they grab a bag of potato chips and they come and sit back down. That's the basic example. So, how do you start to change your environment to do that? How do you start to change your environment? Not only the people around you, like the people is very important, and we can get into that, but the environment, I believe, is also very important. You have to be able to recognize that the environment is nudging you in a direction. The environment is pushing you in a direction at the same time. So, how do you start to recognize that and then start to make changes in your environment?
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many ways to like self-monitor and track, your
Mm,
movement and your activity, but also like clean out your freaking pantry and get rid of the Twizzlers and the potato chips, right? If they're
mm,
not there, you're not going to eat them. So there's like that sort of cleansing that's going on, but then like holding yourself to that standard, like I'm the person that works out once a day or twice a day or whatever. I get my however many steps in. Like, I don't really watch TV. There's nothing going on that's all of that interesting to me, So I'm usually like watching podcasts or, part of different groups. I'm part of the Arte Syndicate. And then there's a branch of Arte that is the art women of Arte, which has been so cool to get around other women when you talk about like proximity and like
mm,
like-minded people. It's been really amazing to network with people who have the same kind of goals and philosophies that you have. So, cleansing your environment, the people around you, and then getting rid of the people that suck.
mm,
Because if you've got those leeches around you that are just draining the life out of you, you got to put some big boundaries up around those people that are like, I have a client right now who's trying not to drink, and she gets shamed by her husband, her friends, when she
mm,
doesn't want to, when she orders like a non-alcoholic drink on a Friday night.
mm,
And I'm just like, do it anyway. Role model, live by example. Who cares what they say? But
mm,
man, like, why you don't have to do that? It's so hard anyway.
mm. It is tough. And the ironic thing is, it's funny. Parents look at teenagers and they think, "Oh, silly teenagers. They're the peer pressure. They give in to peer pressure. Those silly teenagers." But we just don't even recognize that we are constantly
Oh,
giving into peer pressure, and that's a perfect example. That is a
mm,
perfect example. That is so normal. It is sad how normal that is, and it's sad how making the healthy choice, like that's the thing that gets shamed more often than not. That is the thing that gets shamed more often than not. If a healthy person even brings up the idea of shaming someone for having a beer or have she's having a fun time having a beer or having or ordering a dessert after dinner, like goodness forbid that that happens. But it's so simple to make fun of the person who orders chicken and potatoes and broccoli at dinner and everyone else gets cheeseburgers and whatever cheesy stuff. Like that's so normal. So like that's definitely a hard one to overcome.
yeah.
But I want to talk about monotony because you mentioned that
Mhm.
in your Instagram story today.
I did.
I love that word, not because monotony is so much fun, but at the same time, it is the only way that you're going to get from point A to point Z. So talk to me about monotony.
Yeah. So a lot of people are like, oh, I need some, variety or, spice, or I want my workouts to be different every day. And I'm just like, no, the best way to see some change is to embrace the boring. And so, like, I eat the same thing every day for at least for breakfast and lunch. Dinner, I tend to like allow some freedom, but I'm pretty consistent. I hit my macros every day because I am committed to being my best self. I want to be as healthy as I possibly can. I want to age backwards. And if I want to do that, then I need to be really careful about what I put in my body. I do the same general workouts. Like Tuesdays, I'm usually doing shoulders and arms. I do fasted cardio every day. So I think monotony is how you build habits, and habits build consistency, and all of that is through discipline. And once you figure out like doing the hard things over and over again, even when they're boring, it changes who you are. It changes your identity. It changes, like, I am an athlete. I am a person that doesn't put crap in my body. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I don't eat a lot of sugar. Like, that's who you are as a person. So, embracing the boring really is, as you said, the key from getting from A to Z. Like, that's it. It doesn't have to be sexy and exciting.
And it's very rarely sexy and exciting. And I think that's the
Mhm.
problem, right? Because people want to, they have Z in mind, but they pick the thing that gets them from A to B,
Right.
maybe A to C. If they're real lucky, A to D. But they very rarely pick the thing that actually gets them to Z, gets them to the goal that they're trying to go after, because that goal is probably a lot further away than you think that it is. Weight loss is another perfect example. Even losing 20 pounds in a sustainable, healthy, effective way is going to take it's going to take longer than what you expect. You can
Yeah.
do it in a couple weeks. You can do it in 3 to 4 weeks if you really want to, but you're not going to keep it off. There's almost zero chance that you're actually going to sustain that and keep it off. From a simple physiological standpoint, your body's, as soon as you start to eat normal again, your body's going to pile it back on.
And then
So go ahead. And then some. Yes.
they're going to wreck their metabolism.
And that's what you don't understand is that making those instant gratification choices is killing the long term. It's killing you in the long term.
Hmm.
You're trying to make a decision in the short term, but you're killing yourself in the long term. Instead, you need to basically flip that on the other side and do the hard stuff in the short term so that in the long term, life is simple, easier, easier. So you have to be able to just withstand the boredom and the monotony and withstand it so that you can get what you want because you can if you just take the time.
Well, the other thing, withstand it, but also be patient with the process.
Mm,
You're not going to look dramatically different after 1 month of eating well and working out. And people expect like this, oh my gosh, I'm all of a sudden going to like change my body confidence. Like it took you, a lot of my clients, like it took you 40 years to do all this. Now we
mm,
have to undo it and you want to undo it in 6 months. Like
mm.
that's not how this works. So trusting the process and just being patient while embracing the monotony is so important because like you said, most of them give up. They get to D and they're like, oh well, screw this is taking too long. I don't It's not work, it must not be working.
Mhm.
No, you're just not patient with the process. So I always up front, I'm like, listen, there's no quick fix. This is a lot of hard work and it's going to take time, but hopefully this is the last time you lose these 20 pounds and they're gone forever. So we don't ever have to kind of go back to this point of, recouping all of this. But I get people who've done these crash diets where
Mm.
they, what is it, Optivia, 800 calories a day, and
Mm.
they're not allowed to exercise. Like, is that not a red flag that if there's a program where you're so calorie depleted that you can't exercise, that might not be healthy?
Mm.
But people are desperate for that quick they want the quick, immediate gratification.
It's I so the one of the gyms that I train at, they play just it's a local radio station. And I don't listen to radio in the car. And like you said, I don't watch TV a whole lot. And on the radio station, at least every other commercial, if not 80% of them, is some sort of drug
Mhm.
or some sort of shot.
Yeah.
Either you talked about erectile dysfunction before. I hear that one, I feel like every 10 minutes. Come in and get your testosterone boost to fix your erectile dysfunction. And then GLP-1 is the other one that I hear so very often. So often. And both of those things are basically instant gratification ideas. And that's essentially what they're there for. And that's so hard to overcome,
It
right?
is. I
It's
think
so prevalent.
what people don't understand is your GLP-1 agonists will work. You will lose weight. But the minute you stop taking them, your appetite's going to go back to exactly what it used to be. And you're going to put all that weight on and then some. So what did you just do? Like you just wasted thousands of dollars, really. And so I get clients who've been on these medications and I'm like, all right, let's get you on a plan so that you can understand how you put on some lean muscle so that you're more metabolic. Let's wean you off of these medications because there's no weaning plan and they don't know like if you're on them for too long. Like I don't know what they're
What
too
happened? Mhm,
really understand
mhm,
is there a long-term impact of being on these for what forever? I don't know.
mhm.
Um, so that's the thing, and some of my clients are frustrated, like, oh, my friend, she's on Ozempic, she's so skinny. And I'm like, yeah, she's skinny fat. She has no muscle at
Right.
all.
Mhm.
Lost,
Doesn't make her healthy.
lost his muscle. Like,
Mm.
how is that good for you if you're trying to live a long life? So it's just having those informed conversations with people so that they understand, like, Sarcopenia, loss of muscle
Mm.
because of age, is going to happen regardless. Now you're going to accelerate it
Why are you going
because
to speed it
you
up?
want your scale to be like lower. That makes zero sense.
Mhm.
So, if you can have an informed conversation with somebody who understands and is rational, they'll be like, yeah, you're right. It's probably not the best idea.
Mm. Yes, hopefully that's the route that they go down.
Yeah.
So we didn't get to talk a whole lot about your medical practice, but I have two questions about your experience in the medical world. I'll give
Hmm.
them to you at the same time. You decide which kind of order you want to. They're not tough questions, so I'm making it sound more important than what it is. But so what's one thing that you've learned in the medical world that has helped you translate and help other people? One specific ability that you've learned in the medical world that maybe you couldn't have learned outside of the medical world that has helped you be able to help in your coaching world. And then what's one thing that you wish the medical world would do better?
Hmm. So, the one thing that I've really come to learn is that you don't have to decline with age. And I think that's
Mm,
really important, that
mm,
this notion of aging gracefully and, things are going to naturally decline. I have no interest in aging. I want to look and feel the same way now into like where however long I live. Like I'm thinking I'm going to get to the 120s if I don't get hit by a bus or a train, because I've been very intentional about taking care of my cardiovascular health, my immune health, and my cellular
and
health.
you're
Like
rolling around with a six pack, girl.
I do, and I'm proud of
That's
it.
that you should be.
So yeah, and but that's the thing, is you don't have to like turn into this, pear-shaped person just by virtue of your age.
Mm,
So I think that's the big thing, is like there are some really sensible ways to combat aging at every turn that aren't going to cost a lot of money, but that you do have to do your own homework and, understand. So one of the things, like I told my husband for my 50th birthday, is I want to dive deep into the world of full body stem cells for
mm,
both of us and get like head to toe, like just inject all of me, because I really do think that like that is going to prevent any kind of like degenerative joint
mm,
diseases and things like
mhm,
that. So that's one area. The place that medicine does not come anywhere close to discussing is nutrition. My
mm,
husband's a surgeon, and he did not learn anything about nutrition in his medical practice. And I teach, he's one of my clients, so I'm teaching him like, okay, listen, we got to talk about your macros.
mhm,
He still thinks carbs are bad.
mhm,
And I'm like, you've got to understand, like, this is how you eat.
mm,
And it has nothing to do with the food pyramid from the government or your 8 servings of cereal that they want you to have every day.
mhm,
So there's so much misinformation about nutrition that people really need to like take some time and understand. But the sources, you'll hear conflicting things from different sources. So you got to do your own homework. Like with anything else, you got to do your own research to figure out where the truth lies. And so you can't go to your doctor and be like, hey, doc, help me lose weight. They're going to give you this prescription and this prescription. Because that's the problem with the illness model of the way that our healthcare system is built. You don't get any points for preventative medicine. I don't
mhm,
get a discount on my health insurance because I'm really friggin' healthy.
mm,
There's nothing like that. There's no incentive to be well,
mhm.
right? So that whole process needs a complete overhaul. And I don't know who's going to do that, but it would be amazing. You can't get coverage for things that are preventable. Like when I go do my stem cell treatment, that's out of pocket. It's a lot of
Mhm.
money, but I think it's an investment well worth it. Everybody should be covered for that because it's going to make you live longer and healthier. So,
Well, they're starting to do a few things. I think they cover like some basic gym membership, maybe a little bit. And then if you are obese, they'll kind of I've had a couple of clients who they'll cover their nutrition a little bit, but they cover just it's a very low level. But they're starting to do some things and hopefully, fingers crossed, that moves in that direction. Again, my feeling is it probably won't because there's no money in it, at
right.
least not the abundance of money that is being made through the system. But basically, what you're saying goes back to responsibility, taking responsibility. That's what it really comes back to, right? If you're gonna if you're gonna go down this path, don't go to your doctor. The question is, what does the person look like? Is the first thing that I ask. If you go to your doctor and your doctor's got a belly and they're also on 2 or 3 medications, you kind of have to go, okay, am I going to ask this person about nutrition? I,
Yeah.
you have to be able to critically think for a second and actually figure out who you're going to talk to, and then take the time, like you said, to kind of dig in and figure out, is this the person that is going to be able to guide me in a good direction? So you got to take responsibility not only for your health, but take responsibility for who you actually reach out to, who you actually talk to, as far as who to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like the same notion. Like, I wouldn't want my fitness trainer to be obese, right?
Hmm.
Why would I go to an obese fitness trainer? That doesn't make any sense. And it's the same thing. Like, I want the person that's giving me nutritional advice to at least have a normal body mass index.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. So yeah, I agree. But a lot of in the medical model, you get this education, and then that's kind of it. There's not a lot of opportunity or incentive to continue to like learn about any evolution in nutrition. Not to mention, we haven't even talked about supplementation, but like supplementation is a huge industry, but there's a lot that you need to really understand and pay
Mm-hmm.
attention. When I go to the doctor, I don't even put down my supplements. It's not
Mm-hmm.
worth trying to explain
Explain it all.
that I take 1,000 different things, because it's just not worth it. So there's just not that opportunity or incentive to understand like that holistic approach to like, how do you help the average person live a long, healthy life with good quality? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's where people like you and I come in. Like, we really can make a difference. Helping the average Joe, we're approachable. You can ask us questions and be like, what do you think? And that's what I love. We're problem solvers. We help people fix, help solve their problems. And it's a cool responsibility that I've really enjoyed.
Mm. Very good. Well, sister, you are a wealth of knowledge and definitely very passionate about what you do. And I greatly appreciate your knowledge and your passion for what you do. And thank you for all the people that you've helped as well. Definitely appreciate that. Where do people find you?
You can just find me right on Instagram. It's Dr. Christine Boev. And if you want to send me a message, if you have some questions, I love to interact with people. That's the easiest place.
Well, Christine, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for your time. And again, thank you so much for your wisdom.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thanks, Christine.